Nick, what's going on?
Not too much, Therman. How are you this week?
I am great. You know what I mean? I'm always great. You know, I was having a good time. You know what I'm saying? It's rare you're gonna ask me how am I doing and I say something other than good or great. You know what I'm saying? Life is good. You know what I mean? Every day above ground. You know what I mean?
Have you looked at your teams recently?
I have actually.
Yeah, has it got the new?
Why do you ask?
Well, I'm just wondering whether it's got the new public preview of how teams looks.
No,
yet.
I don't. I don't got
it.
Oh,
okay. That's why you're still happy then. Because I just turned this on this morning and I'm not so sure about it. But shall we talk about that and let people know what's going on so that when they jump into their teams and they find that it looks very different to how they thought it should look, they understand what's happening. So what's just going out to public preview right now is this new kind of view of what your teams is going to look like. Let's see if I can blow this up there. So you no longer have a Teams tab in Teams. You just have a chat tab in Teams, and all of your Teams channels are kind of bunched together in there in what some people would think is a very efficient workflow that looks very similar to a certain competitor of Microsoft Teams, and what other people might think is a little bit of a mess. But you know, who am I to judge? I'm just stuck in my ways.
Well, you're an end user. You can judge. You can absolutely judge.
That's true. That's true, and I do. Except it's usually about Microsoft Loop and not Microsoft Teams. But today, you know. So what do you think of this? Like, you've seen this, you've seen what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I've heard the same comparisons to this other quote competitor because I use a different terminology instead of competitor. But help me out here. I don't know what I'm looking at. So on the left hand side, obviously I've lost teams, but then I see people.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's I see favorites. I can put whatever I want on the favorites. Then I see Alexandria Project. So for Alexandria Project, I have channels, and then underneath that I have chats. So okay, all right, fine. And then underneath that I got teams and channels. Okay, all right, wait. If teams and channels are down there at the bottom, what am I looking at underneath Alexandria Project? What are those?
So number one, if you don't like this, you can turn it off. You can go into settings and you can split it up. So the way this works is that when this first becomes available in your tenant, this is going out to public preview, you get a pop-up that says to you, hey, would you like to try this out? If you say yes, it's going to change it. And for the time being, at least, we can turn it off. We can get rid of it. We can put it back into having chats and teams separately. But what we're used to is that we see chats as a separate entity, and a chat can be a chat with an individual. It can be a chat with a group. And then we have teams, which have their individual channels separate to that. So what we're doing here is we're getting rid of that distinction, not from a technology point of view, but from a kind of nomenclature within Teams point of view and the way this is set up and how it looks within Teams. So what you're actually seeing here, Therman, is a grouping together of things that may have been individual chats, that may have been group chats, and also maybe channels, and you can now pull those things together and group them. So if you've got a chat that's for the Alexandria project, and you've got a channel, and you've got some other stuff in there that you want to group together, you can put this all together, and you're no longer confined to separating those two things out. But as I say, you can undo it, and you can go back to having. You see here, we don't have a Teams and chat option. We just have chat there. So you can go back to having chat and Teams if that's what you prefer. So if you do click this on and you don't like it, then don't despair. You can turn it off.
I mean, for now. But wait a minute. What do you mean by I could put two things together? Like I might. So for Alexandria Project.
Yeah.
I might have had Alexandria Budget and Alexandria Team Chat and then Design Squad and Research Weekly Sync. How would I have had that in the current environment? wouldn't I have put all of that stuff underneath a team?
So the chat, no, the group chat or your individual chats would have always been under chats. So they would have lived under chats. Let me see. I think I have a picture here of what this looks like. So let me see. So no, they don't have a picture of what it did look like. Let me explain.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Nick.
You would have had a chat and a team, and so you have a group chat, and you would have that under chats, or you have a chat with an individual, and you have that under chats, and then you have your team, and you have your general channel, and you have all your other channels under there. Well, we've got rid of having the general channel. Like when you create a new team now, you don't get the option of creating a general channel at all.
Right.
So that's one thing in there. But, this comes down to, like, what are you using these things for? Because, for example, you might have had a channel under a different team where you were talking about something that you conceive as a project, right? So let's say you've broken up within your organization, your project, and you're a project manager, right? So in order to do your work on Project A versus Project B, perhaps you have a team that is everything to do with your project, but you also have a chat with a couple of key stakeholders that you only work with on that project. Or you have a group chat with a group of people who you're working with. Or you have an external channel that you're working with with a vendor, for example. And right now, you can't pull all those things together in one place. So what this change is doing for you is allowing you to say, okay, well, I want to see all of this within the context of my project. So I'm going to pull together all of this stuff and I'm going to put it under a group. Right. And I think that's the nomenclature of this, that you get a group. I've only started playing with this today, so I don't claim to be the biggest expert on this, but I do think it's interesting because I do think that there's been this tension between Teams channels and Teams chats that has existed for a long while. I do think there's this lack of understanding of, if you're in a private channel or you're in a shared channel, what does that actually mean? Or if you are in a shared channel from another team, or you're in a shared channel from another organization, like, what does that mean for you as well? And all of these things break down kind of, this is how we work. Like, I think about things in terms of a project, or I think about things in terms of a process. So I think what Microsoft is trying to do here is say, okay, well, I'm going to let you arrange these assets in a way that makes sense to you. And that's your personal arrangement, and the technology behind it, we're abstracting your understanding of your work from the technology model that exists underneath it. And so you could just have a chat, or you could have a series of channels, and how you want to think about them is up to you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Flexibility, more freedom to move these things around. Okay, all right, I get that. I'm tracking that. Now, the next row was mentions. So does that stay as mentions, where I see the people who have mentioned me? Like, that's
so my understanding is that you have your mentions. So this is you have your @ mentions, where someone has called you out for something, or called a group that you're associated out for something within Teams. And then you have discovery of things that you might be interested in seeing across Teams. And so I think another concept here is, within Teams, I think everyone has experienced this, as their list of teams increases, then things can get hidden. And unless there's stuff that you're interacting with all the time, if there's something that crops up in an area where you're not interacting with it all the time, then that can kind of be hidden, and it's not really useful to you there. So I think one of the things that's driving this is the question of, how do we actually make what we're seeing in Teams more actionable, as opposed to it just being kind of the old style of, you have like an old kind of forum kind of website, where you would have all these different forums, and you weren't really sure of where you should go, like it would be broken down into like arbitrary topics, and you're like, I'm not sure whether I really need topic A or topic B, and subtopic A or subtopic B, and you might miss something. So the idea here is, well, you use Teams how you want to use Teams. Like,
Right.
if what's your priority day to day is a whole bunch of chats, then that's great. You use Teams like that. If what you're working on within your organization is a whole bunch of channels, if you work across 5 different teams, but in 5 different teams you're in the marketing channel of each of those teams, then feel free to group all of those together. And that's
Right.
your marketing work that you're doing all the time. So I think conceptually it makes a lot of sense, but it certainly is for those who are very used to what Teams looks like and clicking around Teams and understanding where things are, this is going to take a bit of getting used to.
Yeah. Obviously, definitely got to take some getting used to, which is normal for a software tool when they make an upgrade. But I wonder what the implications are for SharePoint, if any, because for those who might not know, when you create a team, a Microsoft team, you automatically get a SharePoint team site. So I'm wondering if that still stays the same. That's one. And then I also wonder if this screen right here is because I don't know. I don't use the quote competitor. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how similar this is.
Nor do I.
Yeah. But that was the very first thing that I heard. And I wonder if this is in their best interest to do, or if this is, hey, that other thing is so much better. We need to do things the way they do it because it just makes sense. I don't know. But I do know it started similar to that other thing. Then they went and did their own thing. And now what are you saying? You're coming back full circle to
go back to it. I mean, maybe. I mean, on the first question there of how does it change the relationship with SharePoint, my understanding is it doesn't. You still underneath this have exactly the same structures that you had previously.
Okay, all right. That's good.
So right now, at least, I don't think there's any change there. And I mean, I think all of this comes back to the age-old problem of we create these new ways of like organizing data, right? And, you know, Teams was this fresh new way of organizing data. And when everyone just had like 4 or 5 teams, that was wonderful. Look at this. This is so much easier to understand than the file share that we used to have or whatever it was. Like, this is marvelous. But now we've got to the point of we're some years in and you're not talking about 4 or 5 teams. You're talking about 20 teams, 50 teams. And we have exactly the same problem, just with slightly different assets than we had before of like, where do you go for X? Where do you go for Y? Where is that file actually hidden? Where is, you know, I know someone chatted with me about this, but can I find it? No, I sure can't. And so I think all of these changes come back to this kind of basic issue of we haven't fixed the problem. We haven't found a way of fixing the problem, of just making it dead simple for people to interact with what they need to interact with and find what they need to find. We still haven't crossed that hurdle.
That's really interesting to me that you look at Teams that way, because I see Teams as solving a communication issue. I look at this as a communication tool first, because I'm like, the way that we use technology in the world and the way we communicate is like Teams. It's not like email. You do email when you come to work, and you do email when something serious is happening, like you're trying to get a new job. But when you're talking to your friends, when you're using social media, when you're doing whatever, it's like Teams. You know, it's not necessarily structured sentences, and your thoughts can be a little bit more quicker, and you interact with, you know, memes and pictures and links and all this other stuff. Like you do, that's how you communicate. And I felt like Teams made it easy for people to break down the I don't know, the extra stuff you have to do when you're just formally emailing versus, hey, I need to find somebody and ask them a question, find them on Teams, shoot them a direct message. Hey, let's communicate, and we're good. And then while we communicate, we have a thread that communication is kept in, like an email back and forth. But this thread is way more familiar to me, like the internet. You know what I mean? Like let's say a comment when you comment on somebody's post, that's a back and forth you do in a thread on that post. Same thing happens in Teams. If somebody in the team makes a post, we back and forth on it in that team on that thread. So it's, to me, that solved the communication issue. Yeah, it came along with a files area, but people were doing the same thing they were doing before, which is no strategy behind the way they manage these files. They just put the files inside of the folder, and then we work, which gift and curse, you know what I'm saying? Pros and cons to that. But I think that if this upgrade helps you communicate better, I'm in. But if they're trying to do something else, I have to wait to see how I feel about it. But if using this new Teams allows you to communicate even more efficiently, I like that. I don't know. I got to touch it. I got to see what's going on there. I'm a little confused.
I think it's an interesting innovation. I do think that more and more we see Teams as kind of the catch-all, in the same way that email was the catch-all, and there's the same issue that exists with, oh yes, that came through in Teams, that file or whatever it is, in the same way that we used to have with, oh yeah, we know that file is attached to an email somewhere. It's the same basic issue of, as humans, we're really bad at organizing this stuff. Like, we always have the intent. Like, there are so many people that have the intent of inbox 0, but how many actually achieve it? It's I certainly don't.
Not me either. I don't even aspire to.
And I just think this is something, this is a friction point that exists between us as humans and machines and how they think about this stuff. And, trying out new stuff ultimately is rearranging the deck chairs. You could argue that's what they're doing here. The way to fix this, I don't think so. I think the way to actually make this easier for people in the long term is probably the agentic AI stuff that we're seeing appear now. I really think that has the potential to, it's not just about discovery. It's not just about you remembering to go and look for stuff. It's about an assistant like proactively prioritizing your stuff.
Right.
Changing that view that you see in Teams every single day based on A, what it knows other people are asking you for, but B, also what you've scheduled to work on that day. I honestly think that we can get to the point of these views, whether it be of our files or our email or our Teams or whatever it is, change proactively based on our AI assistant understanding what it is that we're trying to prioritize. But that's some way from where we are right now.
That would be so helpful. Oh my God. Anyway, I know we're getting there. So to your point, yeah, someday we're going to get there. Like, I don't think people really, I assume that people do what I do, which is dream up these crazy scenarios and then think about how, we could really see that happen. But I don't know. A lot of people maybe don't do that. I thought by default, that's what you would do. How could you see what the technology could do today? I'm talking about AI. You know what I mean? How could you see what it could do today and not dream up like the kind of things that it can do? Like I don't know. Think about
where you're going to get onto Terminator, right?
No Terminator right this time. Just talking about like, I think we mentioned this. I don't remember, but the self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
Like, self-driving cars is a reality, not where it's like this thing where a few people have it. We'll go through that point, but the majority of people way into the future, I assume, will be in self-driving cars. Why is that not? And that's just, to me, that's basic. That's not something hard to understand. You know what I mean? Like, all of our cars, all of our vehicles right now are attached to some type of system. Even if you get inside of a car and you tell Google, this is where I want to go, or you tell Waze or whatever app you use, then it knows what your vehicle is doing. It has a track record of a vehicle. If you get in your car and you don't tell it where you're going, if you have your location on, it knows what you're doing. It knows what the car next to you is doing and the car on the other side of you is doing. Self-driving cars is almost like a throwaway. Like, you don't even think about it anymore. It will happen. So let's forget about that. So imagine the way we work. To your point, if I come in and my interfaces change because the machine knows what I'm working on. I didn't even think about that one. I like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that shakes things up, because we're used to, let's say, the inbox. We if we're still using email like that, right? We're used to our inbox looking a certain way. Period. It's gonna be like that every day we come in. We start from where we start from, which is the top has the emails that have come in. We can see emails that we've read. We can see emails that we haven't read and how many, whatever, like what our folders are. Imagine AI managing our inbox for us to the point where it even curates our inbox the way you get your stuff curated on social media. But it's like just for you. So it's like we know what's most relevant for you, what you've been working on. We know what's going on. Here, you need to read this first or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think this is the key though, Therman. I think you know we have all of these creation-based AI tools right now. You know that, and that's kind of the easy part. You know, just like throwing some ideas at GPT-4 and being like, come up with some interesting text. That is stuff that like appeals to us as like almost like magic, right? Like this stuff suddenly appears, and that's what we're seeing appear everywhere. But in my opinion, the far more difficult and the far more useful end of this is applying AI to the consumption side. How do we use AI as an assistant not to just create more and more crap that goes out onto the internet, but how do we use AI to really help us to consume stuff better? To proactively go out there. And that goes far beyond, you know, what social media is doing with algorithms right now, where they're just kind of prioritizing you engaging constantly. Like we need to turn that on its head and say, well, how do we curate email in a way to engage with it for the minimum amount of time possible that allows us to achieve the most? That's a very different job for AI to do than what we're seeing on like your Facebook algorithm, for example.
Right. Yeah. Which I should have caveated that with, which is, and that's nothing. That's what I meant to put on there. That's a big. That's again, it's like self-driving cars. It's almost inevitable. Not a big deal to do the inbox like you do social media, but if you think about that concept, and you think about the Jetsons, and you think about Rosie, and you think about the robots that are coming from Tesla. What if the robot, as you come down to your home office, if you have one, and your robot is like, yo, it speaks to you in plain language about your inbox. So it says, hey, do you care about, an event that's happening in 2 weeks that, these folks are going to be at, and it's about this? And you say, nah, not really. So while that came in as an email, it was processed like a regular person who has read it. They know the information, and now they're asking, do you care about it so I can tell you about it? And I'm like, nah, I'm good. And it's like, all right, well, listen, you got these 3 projects that you're working on. Here's where you are at, and you just got an email from this person. Just regular plain language interacting with a robot. I'm not going to go any further about the robots. And then that robot just doing that administrative stuff for you, making it easier for you to, as you say, consume things properly. You know what I'm saying? Like your inbox can be bombarded with foolishness, but your robot, you have trained your robot to surface a certain kind of thing.
Oh yeah. And we are nowhere near there yet. I mean, let me give you this example. So this is a demo account that I use for Copilot stuff. And you can see that one of the starter prompts that I'm given here, given that we are dealing with the cutting edge of AI here, is when's my next meeting with Dropbox? And the intelligence behind this is somewhere in my inbox is an email from Dropbox, a marketing email, or, an account confirmation or something like that. And Copilot has come up with, well, tell me when my next meeting with Dropbox is. And so you can just look at that and understand, like, there is a very long way to go on this proactive consumption of content assisted by AI. Because this is the kind of thing that you see all the time. And, if you have an inbox where you've got a lot of people and you're regularly getting emails from useful people, then you might look at this and say, okay, well, that kind of makes some sense, what you're seeing there. But on the basis of, I've got an inbox here that is just kind of demo accounts and a few like other things there, then you can see that actually what it's coming up with isn't based on anything. It's just a random like roll of the dice on what's in my inbox right now. And so there's a lot of opportunity here to really change how we're consuming content that we just are not leveraging right now, because all the focus is on let's create more, let's give people the tools to create. And in my opinion, that's the easy part.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. It is the easy part to just give it to the creators, but I can't wait till there's still going to be a lot of creators, but when they lay that which Microsoft is doing, they lay a very focused initiative on, helping people work more efficiently. That's where their focus is when it comes to Copilot. So we'll see it. I personally don't think we're far off, though. I don't think it's going to take a long time. I think these folks are every single day working on this. AI is a technology that is one of those revolutionary ones that's like changed the playing field type thing. I don't think it's going to take long. And when I say take long, I guess I mean, I'm not thinking, 5 years from now is how long it's going to take. It's going to be way quicker than that. I just don't know how quick. But I think it's going to be fast.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think that this is a big, big challenge. I think that there is so much content out there, and we've talked about this before, how our context, the context window of a human, is just so immense in comparison to what we're seeing with AI models, that actually distilling the context that we have to make decisions about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, how we're going to prioritize, is well beyond these things right now. And that is what I think we're missing when we're talking about, what is their performance on this test or that test. And so we're not doing tests that someone's written for us every single day. As humans, we're doing tests that are being made up as we go along. Like there are questions being thrown at us that no one's seen before because they're very slightly different, and it's our immense context that's letting us meet that challenge. And so I think this issue of like truly being able to rely on an AI tool to completely prioritize your inbox, right? To these kinds of things, I think that's going to be a far more challenging problem than people who are looking at what ChatGPT can do today really truly understand.
I'm with you. All right, let's we might have to get a bet going, a little over under situation. You know what I
mean? How long is it going to take? We'll have step one. Copilot can prioritize your inbox correctly. Step two, we're hiding from Terminator. Like how long? Yes. How long is it going to take?
I don't know, but don't get me started, Nick, because I will put my thoughts out there. I see the good and the bad. I just want everybody to be prepared. Look, you can't fight a Terminator. That's all I want to say is if you've seen Terminator, you know what it is.
I agree. So how are you doing on time, Therman? Because I know we're kind of getting to the end of our recording. There are some other topics we were going to discuss, but just want to check in with you as to how you're doing on time, and whether you want to put off some stuff to next time or whether you want to keep talking.
Yeah, so because I want to give that topic that we had on deck the amount of attention that it needs, I don't want to rush through it. Plus, I think what we talked about here was pretty good. So this
is going to be a cliffhanger.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a cliffhanger
for next time. We're not going to tell you what the topic's going to be. You just have to.
If you're a business owner, make sure you tune in.
Yeah, if you're a business owner, make sure you tune in every time. Okay, so let us learn then, Therman. What have you got going on? Where can people find you? What should they be excited about over the next couple of weeks?
Listen, I am extremely excited. I've mentioned this before about TikTok, personally, because I drop a video there every day. It's always some SharePoint stuff, but it like condensing my video into these short videos forced me to do a lot with a little. And I think I'm pretty good at it, and I think that you can benefit from learning about, SharePoint tips if you follow me over there on TikTok. Always remember though, I'm always on LinkedIn, so if you need to find me, shoot me a DM or whatever, I'm on LinkedIn. But the link to TikTok will be in the chat, so make sure you swing over there and give me a once over. You know what I'm saying? See if you like it. What about you, Nick? What you got?
So I guess people are watching this on YouTube, so that's good. There's other stuff here to watch. And then come find me on LinkedIn, and I'll be there as well. And, you know, there's a number of people right now. I've seen a lot of interest the last couple of weeks in coaching. You know, people are looking to what is Copilot all about? What is extensibility of Copilot all about? I think people thinking about projects for 2025, and just want to highlight that's something that you can book me for if you just want to connect for an hour or 90 minutes and talk through some of your use cases, understand the technology a little bit better, and to get you kind of a jump start on some of these things where you're thinking about planning for 2025. So if you're interested in that, there's a link to my website down below, so go take a look at that. But that's certainly one opportunity to work with me.
Yeah, I really do believe you should take Nick up on that offer. And the reason is because you probably have like a windy road of questions and you don't know how to articulate it. But maybe as you're talking to Nick and you get an idea and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Let me ask this question. Like, give yourself the space to find out what's going on here with Copilot. Don't if you're on the fence is what I'm saying, don't hesitate. Come and get your questions answered. Pretty much.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Nick, this was congratulations on 5,000 subscribers there, Nick.
Oh, thank you.
Here on YouTube. You. The Bright Ideas Agency is doing their thing.
Yeah, I've got to set a goal for next year now. I was like a month and a half early on this year, so I've got to set a goal for next year now.
So you don't know what your goal is for next year?
Not yet.
You don't know yet?
No, yeah, I didn't set the 5,000 until I got to the end of last year. So I got to the end of last year, saw where I was at, and set 5,000 for this year. So,
right. We'll be waiting to hear your goals for 2025 there, Nick.
Okay, so it's inbox 0, complete AI inbox automation, and my YouTube goal is what we're going to be looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So until next time, take care, Therman.
All right, see ya.
All right, bye.